Once you reach the late game, the game becomes less and less about individual play and more about your team doing sensible actions together. As an individual, you just need to focus on positioning well in team fights and not dying stupidly without buyback. Um, Aside from that, usually the team that plays the most aggressive wins. The team that groups up the most, uses smokes, tries to find kills, tends to win pub games in the late game. The one that just AFK farms the jungle almost always loses, I find. Sooner or later, the aggressive team, one of their attempted ganks on an enemy core works out, and they can use the long late game death timers to get a free Roshan or completely take control of the map. Smoking with as many people as possible and running into the enemy jungle is kind of dumb, but it works. This is what I was referring to by aggressive play, in that technically it's often quite obvious when one team smokes because they completely disappear from the map. They're not pushing lanes. But in pubs, people don't really seem to respect it, and especially at lower levels, just smoking as 5 and running around until you get a kill will win you an awfully high amount of games. It can be hard to organise 5 people on your team to smoke together. Often there's one person who just wants to hit creeps and doesn't want to join with the team. That's not the end of the world. 5-man smokes are very obvious anyway. One trick you can do is you just get the 4 people who are communicating, or 3, you smoke with each other, and then you run towards the people who are hitting creeps. And so long as you take a fight nearby them, they can always join in midway through and get the cleanup kills. And to help with problems finding perfect opportunities to smoke, you want to always carry a smoke in your backpack at least, so that you never miss out on a good opportunity when you are grouped. Some general good practices for using late game smokes. You want to smoke towards your own vision or your own wards because, as has been said, it's easier to win a team fight under your own ward. So if you're planning on finding the enemy team and fighting them, you want to find them you can find them under your own ward. You don't want to run uphill blindly when smoked. Basically, if the enemy team's on that uphill and they're waiting for you, you are just going to get 5-man wiped. It's the easiest way to throw a game. The best thing to do is to take wide paths through the jungle. Like you run into the Dire jungle from the Radiant off lane, or the Radiant jungle from the Dire off lane, and then you follow a long path round which can stay uphill. Whilst it's not the fastest way to smoke towards them, you'll never have to run up a hill and take a bad fight. Smoke towards a lane that is pushing into the enemy. There's 2 logical reasons for this. The first is that if the lane's pushing in, sooner or later one of the enemies is going to have to push it back out and farm it. So you maximize your chances of finding someone if you run towards that lane. Secondly, if you get a kill or a pick off at a lane that is already pushed near to their tier 3 tower, that's the easiest way to transition it into getting a lane of barracks, because it's seconds between you getting the kill and you now being able to hit the tier 3 tower. Late game, you want to prioritize vision around the Roshan pit. Make sure you have observer wards that can spot them running towards it, and if you take a fight, can see them on the high ground. It's good to invest multiple sentries, clearing out any potential enemy wards around Roshan, because if you get Roshan, that's the easiest way to win pub games, is get Roshan, push high ground. As I've said, Roshan wins games. Pushing lanes is important for securing Roshan. You don't want to end up in a situation where you are going Rosh and there's creeps and enemy heroes hitting your tier 3 tower. You end up in a weird kind of situation where you don't want to abandon the Roche, but you're about to lose barracks. Pushing lanes gives you the space and the time whilst enemies counter push to take Roshan for yourself. And for position 5 players in the late game, buyback is the most important thing. Nothing is more important than buyback. I already showed this smoke in the warding video for uphill vision, but I think it's the perfect example of a good smoke. We see they don't run blindly uphill because Zograf puts the ward down. They also smoke towards the push lane, knowing someone will be farming around here afterwards. And they smoke towards Roshan, which is up, which means they can take Rosh after they get kills. And this is just an example of how they were losing this game by a very long way. 6k gold nearly, I think, but just one 4-man smoke run straight at the enemy team, and now they're suddenly in a comfortable position. A lot of pub games sort of go like this, where you can be in a terrible state and you just gamble, throw the dice, smoke when Roche is up, and you can just turn the game around like this. There's a very good example of that. As for itemization in the mid and late game, I made a flowchart which describes my itemization process for pretty much the majority of position 5 heroes, and I posted it on Reddit, and the Reddit thread has some discussion about where it's not ideal and where it could be better. This is the basic one. I'll put a link to the Reddit thread in the description. Essentially, it's mainly made up of buying small items, team-based items, like buying urn if no one on your team has one, medallion, 4 staffs, glimmer capes, drums or pipe. Typically items that can save one of your carries when they're initiated on, and can also save you